Hello, friends. It's Chapo. You want to talk about some of the individual sort of marquee races? I mean, let's start with the Senate. Starting in Pennsylvania, John Reddit man.
John Reddit man pulled it off.
John Reddit man.
CHP rolls worst Manchurian candidate ever. Asked to leave Empire.
You gotta wonder if he had not stroked out on fucking primary night, which is amazing. It was literally the day of the primary election. He might have won by the same or bigger margin that Shapiro beat Magliano's
Oh my
Italian
God.
Cafe. I mean, Jesus Christ, that's unheard of at this point in a swing
Oh
state
my God.
Senate race.
Jewish Josh spanked Mangiano's Little Italy. Holy fuck, dude.
Okay, I mean,
That's why I know where they're going after that bar mitzvah.
but you know, with John Reddit man in Pennsylvania, I mean, like we talked about it before. This heralds for the Democrats. Look, Beto, no more bean balls, no more hipsters. This is the Pritzker Reddit man. They need to run big guys.
Big guys.
This is the big boys now.
I
This is the
fucking lost.
candidate.
I swear to Christ, if they had taken Tim Ryan to like Brazil and gotten him like some sort of calf implant, shin lengthening thing to put him at like 6'8", if Tim Ryan had been 6'8" tall, he would have destroyed JD Vance. Or would have won by at least 2 points by that. I mean.
So Ohio, I think we said Vance was likely to win that
Yes.
one. So now we have that
fucking
butterball in the
toad.
Senate. Yeah. So
Hey,
I
congratulations. Guess what, JD? Congratulations. You're going to be in the Senate. And guess what? You're still going to hate yourself because you feel like a fraud. Everywhere you go, every room you're in, you feel like you're full of shit. You have never not felt like you were pulling one over on whoever was in the room with you. And that's not going to change when you're palling around with the fucking senators, buddy.
And what you will have to ask yourself, which group of people was it worth screwing over? Because you've screwed over everyone to get to this very, very pathetic station.
It's like he is like the like hollow man. It's grotesque.
The most transactional man in the world.
And he's filled with loathing. Like his hatred of like the liberal culture that he used to suck up to, that's real, but it's all projected self-loathing.
Speaking of liberal culture, how do you think Ron Howard, Amy Adams, and Glenn Close are feeling about themselves looking at the J.D. Vance Senate?
Because I think Tim Ryan would have beat Josh Mandel.
Yeah.
I don't know. Ohio's
Weird. Ohio's kind of gonna. It's gonna be like honestly, it'll be like the Northern Sentinel of the Florida Imperium. Like they're gonna have like that's gonna be the California to like Florida's New York, like in the east.
Yeah.
The southeast axis country that's going to emerge out of this.
They did. I will say in Ohio, Democrats did win every toss-up House race, which
they won in Cincinnati, which is amazing because Hamilton County there is like, yes, that's all of Cincinnati, but Cincinnati is fraction of the size of the surrounding suburbs, and that's why it's been held by Republicans since forever. And this guy Steve Chabot, he got upset.
Yeah.
Moving on though, like this was the one Senate race that I was actually paying attention to. Now results have not been called yet. Apparently, it's going to take Arizona another 3 months to fucking
What the fuck are you guys
get
doing?
these election results in. But it very much looks like that Blake Masters is going to be defeated by the astronaut. And what I got to say about this, Blake Masters ran behind every other Republican candidate in Arizona by something like 8 points. That motherfucker. Peter Thiel is going to use him as a blood bag. They're going to test experimental drugs on him like he's a fucking Labrador. What a fucking loser that guy is. You want to talk about like the guy who most like represents the schism between normal white people and whatever the fuck the GOP is doing? That motherfucker, Blake Masters, is just about one of the most alienating creeps I have ever seen.
Like we said, what makes a normal person? What makes a normal person? One of the big ones is having a job. Most normal, voting age people have jobs. Black Masters has literally never held a job. He has been a courtier for Peter Thiel his entire life. He's been a poster. And it's like, we know that life, and that ain't working. That is what makes you freaks. That's why we're freaks. That's why I, anyway, took seriously this idea that the Republicans were going to take hold of the national imagination, because I'm only interacting with the world through this membrane because I don't have a real job.
And I predicted it well because of my blue collar background from the old manufacturing town of Hyde Park, Chicago, Illinois, with the old trade school, University of Chicago, right on my doorstep. Want to touch on Wisconsin a little bit. Mandela Barnes would have won with some
Feels
more
like they
money.
could have won that one if they hadn't wasted
Yeah,
money in Florida.
Yeah.
Ugh.
No, Ron Johnson. Ron Johnson.
I hate that
last
fucking toad so much. That look, he looks like a fucking scrunched up foreskin that they like cut little eyes into. Just like he's like if Earthworm Jim were a real guy.
Ron Johnson, the look in his eyes, it always looks like he got high for the first time, and he's scared.
he looks like he has the fear. He looks like the fear is creeping up his spine all the time. But yeah, he was given. He was infused with something like $27 million in the last days of the campaign from
and they had no match to that because Val Dennings
Republican
was going to pull it out.
Yeah,
they wasted on
and they had to spend how much money on Kathy Molecule because they fucking destroyed their own party. Wow, what a shock. The place where the Democratic Party is the most machine-like is also where it's destroying itself fastest because it's made up with a bunch of fucking self-serving psychopaths who don't realize that they're actually in a party.
Well, I was talking about Kathy Molecule for a second. What were up with all of the polls that had her in a dead heat with Zeldin? She won by 30 points.
Trafalgar.
I was trying to tell
There's a fake
people.
pollster in there.
Do you know how Trafalgar and RCP? Do you know how they work? They start with a bad sample. They start with an overrepresented R sample, and then they just arbitrarily add numbers to the result they get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's how they do it. That's how they predicted. I don't know, Peter Welch in Vermont. That looks like a toss-up.
He lost by doing 40 points.
Peter Welch won by 40 points. Yeah, they do fan fiction, and okay, the media has to take those to I guess have some type of narrative. Because
they got to keep it spicy. Like Nate Silver, when he was justifying keeping Trafalgar in there, and in fact placing it pretty highly, his argument was basically, yes, of course, this is a transparent, Republican-funded program. Like this, obviously, these are cooked books. But the Democrats, if they wanted to, they could pay for cookbook polls too, and they're not doing that, and that says something. That they're not, and because his argument was, you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't risk being a fraudulent too much because of reputational damage. It's like, yes, that's the Republican Party.
Yeah.
They're worried about what the media says about their business tactics and ethics. They give a shit.
Yeah, Trafalgar really ate it. I imagine for some reason they will still be an A-rated pollster.
They got to keep it interesting.
Mandela Barnes, 27,000 votes. You got to wonder, money that could have been better spent there if you're the Democrats. I want to talk about Michelle Lujan Grisham, the Me Too'd woman governor of New Mexico, the incumbent Democrat who won re-election last night. If that does not say it all, Michelle was accused of pouring a water bottle on a male staffer's crotch. The only Me Too'd woman Democratic governor in political history, and they could not beat her.
Wow. She's got national. She could be on the ticket. I think her and Klobuchar maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think like if we're doing fantasy casting, horse racing, Whitmer is probably the biggest Democratic gubernatorial star of the night, right?
Oh yeah, the Democrats in Michigan. That's the best result they've had in 80 years in the state of Michigan.
That was a pretty insane performance. I think if we're, looking down the line, looking after Trump dies, looking after whatever happens.
By the way, he might die because he has chosen to stay in Mar-a-Lago right now with a Category 3 hurricane bearing down.
I ain't afraid of no roller coaster.
They are praying for that. They are fucking praying for that.
Man.
Oh, that would solve all their problems.
Yeah, that would.
But I think 2028, 2032, Whitmer crushes. She fucking crushes LaRon. I mean, a MILF who's taller than him. He looked like he was going to cry debating Charlie Crist. How's that going to go?
It's true. He got alphaed by Charlie fucking Crisp in a debate. That is how. That's how much he can bring to the table to try to out charisma Trump.
By the way, I feel like Ron DeSantis is that's the way to go with him. But I will say, when Trump came out with Ron DeSanctimonious, that was the first chink in Trump's armor
That's
I've
a
ever
chink in
seen.
the armor. I'm wondering, man.
That was the first bit of doubt where I was like, oh, does he really still have the juice?
Yeah,
Ron
Flipman tire, what will
DeSanctimonious,
Trumps do?
He's got to get his arm back. It's like he's bound and down. Maybe Ron is his Reg Macworthy, and he's got 2 more.
I honestly
pitches.
feel like it'll be like an iron sharpens iron situation, or rather, iron destroys a melon. And he will just DeSanctimonious is bad right off the bat, but he keeps engaging with DeSantis. He keeps getting mad. It's going to get better. He's going to get more focused. And by the time of the primaries, he's just going to be destroying him on a daily basis. It's going to be like Don Rickles came to like a guy's birthday party and he's just got him in a fucking closet yelling in his ear. And
Trump has already threatened to reveal, quote, unflattering information about DeSantis if he runs, saying, I know more about him than anybody other than perhaps his wife, who's actually running his campaign.
Oh, honey, spill.
Speaking of wives, did you see the story with Oz, why Trump was so big on Oz from the get-go was
because
Melania liked him. That's what Melania watches on TV during the daytime.
If Trump runs again, he's got to get a new wife. Melania is washed. He's got to get a younger, hotter wife because Melania is washed. She saddled him with this loser, and Trump is theming about because he put his name, his winning brand behind all these fucking losers, and they all ate shit. And he's gonna blame it on Melania. So Trump, I think he needs to re-wife. He's got to wife up.
He's got to wife
2024.
Yeah.
Who could he get? Who would be an upgrade on Melania?
What about the member of Danity Kane that Don Jr. cheated with?
Aubrey O'Day. That's good.
Gina Carano.
Oh, okay.
The Star Wars.
Gina Carano.
Gina Carano. Yeah. I don't know. I think she's probably a little too
she's a little beefy.
mannish.
A little big. She's a wide. He likes beautiful women. He likes beautiful.
There's probably someone out there. There's probably a news story we haven't heard of. There's probably a beauty queen somewhere in Charleston Beach.
Yeah, she got booed when she answered a question. How would you make America better?
Yeah.
He should just take Kimberly Gargoyle from Don Jr.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's an alpha move.
Yeah. And she would level up in
she would check that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
That would be
heartbeat.
Oh God, that's so good. That's it. Shit. He has to cuckold Don Jr., the ultimate power move to show that you're still the alpha. That none can stand against you.
I guess the other election results of note, going back from the original thing about the Dobbs decision and how unpopular criminalizing abortion is, in the 5 states in which there was an abortion referendum on the ballot, they all chose to preserve the right to obtain an abortion in states like Kentucky, California, Michigan, legalized marijuana, one in Maryland, Missouri, lost in North Carolina and Arkansas. But another great piece of news from the midterm elections: Tennessee officially banned slavery, or slavery as a punishment. And I was when I saw the headline, I was like, wait, what? Is it still legal to enslave someone?
I honestly wish I haven't read. I wish somebody was more explicit with this because the 13th Amendment bans slavery except in cases of penal servitude. That's the loophole that created the whole prison labor industry. And have they closed that loophole so that they cannot use prison labor? Is that what they're saying? Because that would be pretty big if that were the case. Or are they just acknowledging that the 13th Amendment exists?
Hard to say, but once again, I saw speaking on the abortion issue, I saw that sort of the face of the youth pro-life movement, Lila Rose, and she was talking about how in California, the state that she lives in, she was so disappointed and she was surprised that voters even in California would like abortion to remain legal. And she was we've been outspent so much. And she was just crestfallen and dumbfounded that the National Republican Party didn't spend more money advertising their position on abortion, which is I don't know what to tell you, Lila. 70 to 80% of the country is in favor of legal abortion. And so
they're really playing a losing hand there. And it looks like the Dobbs effect held. That was a thing I didn't know about. I thought maybe it will have diluted a little bit, and it definitely did not dilute. That the special elections ended up being real canaries in the coal mine there to show that the dynamic where the out of party or the in party power sees a demobilization or in midterms. I think Dobbs might be the permanent mobilizer on the pro-choice side that it has been before now on the pro-life side, just because. Now it's the other way around. They're always now out of power on the question of abortion, right? Like they never have the presidency as long as Roe is overturned. So that means they're going to have the same sort of constant mobilizing energy and like issue salience that it has had for conservatives. And there was that asymmetry that helped end Roe in the first place. So we'll see if this might push things in the other direction.
I mean, just
or
to
not.
underscore
Maybe
again,
the economy collapses next year, and all of a sudden nobody gives a shit about anything other than punishing someone who lives next to them in a Hutu power style cleansing of internal enemies.
I mean, like just to underscore what I said at the beginning is that on these culture war issues, the Republicans are incredibly salty because they are finding out with every passing year that they are in more and more of a moral minority. And they're coming face to face with this now. And the ones who are admitting it are saying, yeah, we need to end democracy. Or, as I said at the beginning, what they're saying is that we didn't run hard enough on the kid litter boxes. Well, we should have made Matt Walsh's "What Is a Woman" should have been like we should have sent that to every voter in the country on Blu-ray and DVD.
Well, okay. Even on things where it's not like abortion, where they are so far out of the realm of the average American opinion, where they're so extreme and where you actually see the effects of their chosen policy, even on things where they're closer to the median point, the problem is they're so freakish and they're so bad at talking to normal people at this point that it kind of doesn't matter at this moment. That even when they may be representing a majority opinion in some states, in some districts, maybe even nationally, that they have lost the ability to talk about these things in a non-internet-y way, in a non-freak way.
Yeah.
It does seem as though, talking about doing nothing, man, I've never seen anything more flaccid and linguini-spined than the way that the corporate GOP approached this very winnable election. Now, I think there's a lot of synthesis to be done, but you touched on McCarthy. I thought it was wild the way they rolled out this plan for America. I saw nothing about it. Nothing. I am obsessed with following the news. I got an entire team of young kids, 20 years old. All they do is look at clips online. Never once did I get a clip about Kevin McCarthy going based, going flamethrower, Kevin McCarthy rip-roaring. Never once. I didn't get a single clip that, like, the corporate GOP did a single fire thing in this election. And we cover this day in and day out. We have the best damn people on the internet covering the hottest clips out there, and we go nuts for it. And if Kevin McCarthy did something based, I would have covered it. I have nothing against it. But I didn't get a single clip, Rich. Nothing.
20
God
seconds,
bless
Rich,
you, Benny.
and we'll talk over the
God
break.
bless you.
You know, obviously, all of the fear mongering around trans issues, or like literally saying that like they are chopping off cocks like by the millions. Yeah. It's just a cock and testicle holocaust in this country going on right now, and like that's like the bleeding edge because it's like a newer issue. It's one that people feel less comfortable talking about. But the thing is, that was a loser for them. But don't forget, it wasn't just abortion and like trans high school kids or trans healthcare that these people were like talking about. No, like they were all in on relitigating gay marriage again and getting rid of it, and also potentially banning contraception in some states. Like that's how fucking high on their own supply these people were.
Yeah, it's people don't like it, and the fact that they aren't reverting or they aren't going in a different direction now that they got what they wanted. No, they're pushing forward, so they're making sure that it's always going to be in the news. There's always going to be some fucking law somewhere trying to push even closer to people's sense of autonomy, and they're going to push back. And I think that with that like mobilization edge neutralized, if that's what we're seeing here, along with the educational polarization and everything, then we might be in a situation where the only thing left, like holding together Republican power anywhere, is just their control of institutions. And over time, if all they can do is a holding action, if they can't keep advancing the ball like they could under McConnell, eventually it goes away. Like Wisconsin's a good example. Wisconsin has been in this death grip, like one-party state situation. In any international like poll where they like put the countries in different colors based on their level of democracy, Wisconsin's like a fucking red. It's not a fucking democratic. It is this one-party state because they have gerrymandered their maps, and they have a state Supreme Court that has affirmed that because the state Supreme Court idiotically is elected in Wisconsin, and of course for years the only people who are paying money for relatively obscure state Supreme Court cases or races were, big money Republican donors. So it's stacked with conservatives. But there's an election next. There's a special election next spring where the fifth vote on the conservative court is going to be replaced. And in this new environment, if you get that person in there, you get a de-gerrymander of that map, and all of a sudden that power base collapses almost overnight. It's like this is all held together by bailing wire, which is why they're getting so crazy. But if they're getting crazy and no one else is getting as crazy at the same rate, they're going to break themselves off and alienate themselves and accelerate this process of decoupling from power.
And we saw a test case in what it would look like to fully break that apart electorally in Michigan. Mm-hmm. If they successfully break that apart in Wisconsin, it will look a lot like what the culmination of years of effort last night with Whitmer, with their state legislatures, with everything. There's definitely a blueprint for doing it.
I mean, it's a reversal to the mean, though, right? Because this was the old blue wall before fucking Hillary Clinton came along, right? Like these states were assumed to be Democratic.
Yes.
And then this happened because of the specific context of the 2016 election, and now those conditions are dissipating, and normality is reasserting itself. Like that's what I think we all thought was impossible. Trump had to remake all of history, but it turns out nothing as shallow a meteor hit as a single presidential term can do that, no matter how traumatic it was to encounter through the television.
And normality is so strong that it gave us a historic midterm. Yeah. To predict what very few people predicted, and I will say only City of Freaks, he's the only guy I saw who specifically predicted as much, because I didn't go that far as him.
No, he was 100% vindicated, astounding. Yeah. Like he was really going out on a limb in August, like after the branded bounce after the IRA passed. And then, that fell down in September and people were like, oh, but turns out that was the right call then. Like that was not the false dawn. That was the actual terrain. We were surrounded the rest of the time by these stultifying clouds of discourse that turned into fog. We couldn't see the actual terrain. It was fucking August. It was August the whole time.
Yeah. And I did not get into specifics as much as him, but for him to predict that, and for the very few people that were along with that, what they predicted was astounding, which is, we're going to see a midterm like we haven't seen since 2002, since 1934, since something like that.
34.
Yes. And, okay, it turns out that was the most based in reality prediction, because it is based on, normalcy reasserting itself.
Oh, shit, guys. Fuck. Are we owned here? I just realized we might be owned. If this is the best performance by a elected Democrat in their first term since 34, does that mean that Biden actually is the new FDR? Is that correct? Do we have to adjust for time and space differences and stuff and realize shit? No, he was. Look at him.
Well,
I guess he has a wheelchair in his head.
Well, like all things are accomplished now. They're accomplished by someone walking backwards into them.
Yep. Oh my God, he does have fucking wheelchair in his head. All the drugs they keep him on, those are the equivalent of fucking FDR's wheelchair. Shit, he just needs to start smoking.
And the car is his blanket.
All right, to close things out for today, would you guys mind dipping into the Cass hole real quick? Because he had a pre-election column that I like. It goes on fucking forever, but I just want to read the beginning here. So this is John Cass writing on November 6th, 2022.